Are you thinking about buying an investment property or even renovating your own home? In this video, I'm going to be breaking it down how much you should expect to spend on renovations in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, whether it's worth doing, and also different price points. So even before we start talking about the cost of renovations, the first step you're going to want to do is figure out how much your home is going to be worth once all the work is done. This is something called the ARV, or the after repair value. And if you're an investor, you want to make sure that including purchase price and renovations and holding costs, you're not spending more than 70 to 80% of that after repair value. And if you're a homeowner, you definitely don't want to be going more than what the neighborhood ceiling is for a price point for your particular home. This simply means the level of finish for a $300,000 townhome in Lancaster is going to be very different to a $650,000 home in Lititz or Manheim. So let's break down some pricing. Starting off with the kitchen, there are 3 different price ranges. So I would say starting off with a DIY or an investor range, you're looking at somewhere between $8,000 to $15,000. This will include soft closed doors. Maybe you have laminate or a butcher block countertop rather than quartz, but you can still get a pretty solid kitchen for $8,000 to $15,000. If you're looking for something a little bit more fancy, a cost-effective contractor version, somewhere between $18,000 to $30,000 is going to be typical. You're probably looking at getting some custom cabinetry. However, you're not going crazy with appliances at this point. And then for a really high-end level, you're probably looking somewhere between $35,000 to $60,000. However, you can spend more than that if you get some high-end designers. The main key here is not to overspend. If your home is in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, you probably don't want to spend more than $25,000 to maybe $30,000 on a kitchen. And if you're in a bigger family home, maybe you're looking at somewhere up to around $45,000 to $50,000. If you're in a downtown home in Lancaster, one of the townhomes, you probably don't want to spend more than $25,000. My wife and I are going for a kitchen renovation right now. We managed to get all of the countertops and cabinets for about $10,000. It was $2,000 for new appliances, and it was about $2,000 for new flooring. So we're all in for around $15,000, which means we've probably managed to get the majority of that money back in terms of improvement price of the property. Moving on to the bathroom. A bathroom renovation, if you're just doing some painting, not moving any plumbing around, you can probably get away with it for around $4,000 to $8,000. If you start adding additional tile, maybe you're moving the layout around somewhere between $10,000 and $18,000. And then if you're trying to do a much bigger renovation, like what a lot of the older townhomes in Lancaster do, is they split one of the bedrooms into a larger bathroom. So you have a kind of small family bathroom and then a larger bathroom for the primary suite. But you're probably looking at somewhere between $25,000 to $35,000 to get that bathroom renovation done. The way to keep the cost down, like I said, is to keep the plumbing as close to where it originally is. As soon as you start moving that around, opening walls, it's going to become far more expensive. In most neighborhoods in Lancaster, I'd avoid spending more than $25,000 on a bathroom renovation unless that price point exceeds $500,000. Upgrading the electrical. So in downtown Lancaster, again, we have lots of older homes, knob and tube wirings, so there can be pretty costly things to fix. If you're just getting a panel box swapped, I would say somewhere between $1,800 to $4,000. If anyone's quoting you more than $5,000 for a panel box, I would seek somebody else. If you're looking at getting more electrical work done, you're probably somewhere between $4,000 to $8,000. And if you're looking at getting the entire home rewired, let's say it's full of knob and tube wiring, that's probably going to cost you somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000. I also wouldn't go crazy by adding huge light fixtures or extravagant ones, because again, in the price point of home, you're probably not adding any value to the home itself. For flooring, multiple different options here, from the cheapest being carpet. This is going to cost you somewhere between $1 and about $3.50 to replace. That includes the rip out, the tear out. For a 1,500 square foot home, I'd probably budget somewhere between like $2,500 and $4,000 to get it fully recarpeted. If you're doing vinyl plank, the vinyl planks are around $4 up to about $8 per square foot. Again, that includes tear out and installation. For some of the older homes, the floors tend to be a little bit more wavy. So do also think that you may have to budget for a little bit more cost for that, for them to even the flooring out. If you want to refinish hardwood, this can be a really cost-effective way, and sometimes even cheaper than putting vinyl plank down. So if your hardwood floors are in good condition, like the ones I have behind me, you can probably finish them yourself for about $1.50 to $2 a square foot, or you could pay someone somewhere between $3 and $4 to be able to get that refinished. Now, if you're thinking about installing new hardwood, if your property is less than $500,000, I probably wouldn't bother. I would just go with a luxury vinyl plank option. This is going to cost you somewhere between $9 a square foot and $15 a square foot. Let's step outside of the home for a moment and look at the roof. If you're looking at getting asphalt shingles done, this could be somewhere between $5,000 up to $15,000 if you have a particularly complex or difficult roof. If it's more than $10,000, I'd look for a second or third opinion. So once again, this old home's keeping our wallets empty. You're probably looking somewhere between like $5,000 to $15,000 for slate repair, unless you're just getting a few done. I had maybe I think 50 or 60 slates replaced last year, and it cost around, I think it was around like $2,500, but they also did some gutter work as well. If you're looking at taking the whole roof off and putting a new one on, you're probably looking somewhere more between like the $15,000 to $40,000 range. And then for rubber roofs, you're probably looking at somewhere around $600 to $1,000 a square, and a square is 100 square feet. So you probably, again, for the typical townhouse in Lancaster, for the rubber flat roofs, somewhere between, I would say, $6,000 on the low end, up to $15,000 if you have a particularly large house. HVAC repairs. And then the final big item that we'll talk about today is going to be the HVAC. So if you're looking at a basic furnace replacement, you're somewhere between probably 4,000 up to about 8,000. If you're doing a full HVAC system, I think on the low end these days, it's going to be around 8. It used to be far cheaper than this, but they brought out a new type in the last year. So all the prices seem to have gone up quite a lot, I would say, in the last 2 or 3 years. But somewhere for a full HVAC system between 8,000 to 15,000. But again, if it's 15,000, it better be a super high efficiency furnace. And if you are getting a high efficiency furnace, I would speak to the township to see if there are any grants or programs you can use to get you some money back. If you have a boiler system like I do, you're probably looking somewhere between $7,000 up to $15,000 for a full replacement. If you don't have any ductwork and you want to add ductwork, this is where things can get very expensive. And it comes down to, is your home in a neighborhood where it's going to be worth doing that? The cost that I got quoted for everything to have a kind of central air on the ground floor and then mini split systems on floors 2 and 3, it was about $33,000 in total. That was about $8,000 to $12,000 for the downstairs, and then an additional, I think, $15,000 to $20,000 for upstairs. I would always budget for 10% additional for a cosmetic remodel, maybe 15 to 20% for older Lancaster homes. And if you're buying an old home like this one, I'd probably budget 25% more just in case you end up having to do additional work. In summary, start off by figuring out your after repair value, then sit down and really take the time to speak to somewhere between 2 and 5 contractors for each. Get various bids, make sure they're highly recommended, and whatever you do, don't put down the full amount right away. Try and get away with doing as little deposit as possible. Now, if you are thinking about purchasing or renovating a home, check out this video here where I talk about what things to think about before purchasing an older home. And in this video here, I talk about what inspections you should try and get when purchasing a property.